This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. The question and the topic at hand here on today's show. Even after the Brandon Aiyuk trade request, is Danny Gray's roster spot in danger? We're talking about a third-round pick from a couple of years ago who might not make this roster. And with Niners training camp approaching, it's a good conversation to have because of this. We'll see what happens with the future of Brandon Aiyuk, but even still, the Niners have, maybe, arguably, the best and deepest wide receiver room in the National Football League. So they have some flexibility as far as what decision they make here. The Niners' top 5 wide receivers as of right now, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Jauan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Jacob Cowing. That's a really, really good top 5 right there. And certainly one of the best 1-2 punches in the NFL, with Aiyuk and Deebo leading the charge, and Jauan Jennings, I think it's only a matter of time before in the regular season, he really starts to pop off. And then the next phase of the wide receiver group for the Niners. Still some good players here, who if they don't make this team, could be on another team. Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley, Danny Gray, Trent Taylor, and Tariq Owens. That right there is a loaded positional group at the wide receiver spot. And I like the makeup of that room. You have some versatility, you have some diversity, you have some wide receivers who are taller than others, some wide receivers who are outside guys, some wide receivers who are slot guys, everybody in their own way, pretty dynamic with the football in their hands. And of course, when you play under Kyle Shanahan, you got to have the ability to block within this offense. And let's bring back up Danny Gray's roster spot. We just showed you 10 wide receivers on this team. The Niners probably going to carry 6 on the initial 53. So where is there a spot for Danny Gray on this squad? Ideally, you think about his speed, it would be great to have a vertical weapon on this squad, but at the expense of who? And a more in-depth look here at Danny Gray. He's entering year 3, 25 years old. It would be unfortunate to let go of another third-round pick. Danny Gray by way of SMU, also a JUCO guy. But that would be Trey Sermon, Ty Davis-Price, and Danny Gray. 3 consecutive off seasons in which you let go of a third-rounder if you do cut him. But up to this point, as he's going into year 3, he has 1 career catch for just 10 yards. But you salivate over the thought of him being that 4.3 40-yard dash guy in the pre-draft process. There are obvious shoo-ins to make the roster. I think that the top 5 that we just showed you, they're going to make the squad. You drafted Pearsall round 1. You drafted Jacob Cowing in round 4. I like the potential of those players. Of course, with Cowing, you might be able to cut him and bring him back. You're not going to do that with Pearsall because he was a first-rounder. 6 wide receivers made the initial 53 last year after training camp. You're going to hold on to Aiyuk, Deebo, and Jauan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall as well. So that gives you 4, which gives you 2 more roster spots to choose between Chris Conley, Jacob Cowing, Ronnie Bell, Trent Taylor, Danny Gray, Tariq Owens, even Tay Martin. So specifically with those wide receivers who are firmly entrenched on that roster bubble, for Ronnie Bell going into year 2, he was great in the preseason. He flashed some serious potential. He kind of looked like a Deebo Samuel light. Tough to bring down, rugged with the ball in his hands, very tough and physical. He also has special teams coverage as a returner and as a guy who can play special teams coverage. And keep in mind that this new kickoff rule could force teams to put more of a weapon back there at that return spot. And I think that Ronnie Bell has a future in this league. I think that he has potential in this league to be a pretty good slot guy. Jacob Cowing reminds me a little bit of a Tyler Lockett. He's shorter, shifty, can make a man miss in a phone booth. He, too, is dynamic with the ball in his hands. He kind of has quick feet like a jitterbug. A lot of college production. And he's looked at by some draft evaluators as a sleeper in this class. Trent Taylor, Doesn't really move the needle a lot for me. He's a trusted veteran who was brought back by the Niners. He's pretty much at this point just a sure-handed punt returner who's not really going to impact the pass game at all. Chris Conley, I think, is very trusted and respected by head coach Kyle Shanahan. He made multiple massive special teams plays in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, and we saw in that playoff run when Debo was banged up, Chris Conley had to rise to the occasion as a pass catcher. And he's a veteran who's a good special teamer who understands this offense. Danny Gray hasn't been reliable as far as staying healthy. He's dropped some easy passes throughout training camp and has limited special teams work. Last year in the preseason, as a returner, that's when Danny Gray was the kick returner, landed on his shoulder. We didn't see him again for the rest of the season. So when you're not available and you're kind of a one-trick pony and you can't impact the game offensively or on special teams, that's a little bit of a problem. So today's poll question is this: will Danny Gray make the Niners 53-man roster? Type on or type off. As for his contract information, former third-round pick, there's not a lot of dead money. If the Niners were to cut Danny Gray, and I don't think that he has a lot of trade value, some people are going to bring that up in the comment section, you only have to eat $212,000 in dead money. But then you save $1.16 million on the cap, and as we know, the Niners, a little bit cash-strapped. And I think it could come down to simply this. Do you want to have Danny Gray or do you want to have Ronnie Bell? Ronnie Bell isn't flashy. He doesn't have the alluring, sexy speed of a Danny Gray. He's not going to take the top off of the defense. But I think that he can be a solid slot. He could play special teams coverage as a tackler. He can also be a returner, punt, and kickoff. And I just think that he has football player vibes. Just go back and watch some of the tape from the preseason last year, how he made guys miss, how he tiptoed the sideline, stayed in bounds, how he carried tacklers, how he broke tackles. He was a pretty dynamic player, and I think that even though he suffered from some drops in the spring, the Niners look at him as a guy who can be an impact player, special teams wide receiver, whereas Danny Gray hasn't really been able to do either. Who is better? Who would you rather have on this Niners squad? Type RB for Ronnie Bell. Type DG for Danny Gray. Sound off with what you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. As always, thank you so much for supporting the show.